be in the stream though.
Good, good. How about you? Good. You here for that one short class? They're gonna build that soon.
Okay, we're live.
Who did go on it? Yeah.
We're live.
We got a couple minutes.
Nice. If you'd like, yeah, your choice. It's 6, so up to you.
It's 6, 6.
Oh, thank you, I looked over there.
When you do what do you do?
So, this is the public planning and zoning meeting hearing for October 2021. Call it to order. Please turn or silence all your electronic devices. We'll call roll. So we have.
I'll do that, I'll do that for you.
Okay,
We have Larry Vandenberg,
here.
Lacey Schwab,
Here.
Nick Burns,
Here.
Nina Beasley,
Here.
and for the record, John Hatcher is absent. Thank you.
So tonight I'll be acting as pro tem if our chair is out. Can we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So tonight on the agenda is the minutes, action items from September 15, 2021, public comment, public hearing regarding Engelstad annexation, and the action item is consider recommendation options for the city council of the city of Rathdrum. And regarding green grass rezone, action item consider recommendation options for the city council of the city of Rathdrum. New business will be Meyer Market short plat subdivision. Action item will be consider recommendation options for city council of the city of Rathdrum. And old business will be Westwood Pines final plat. And the action item will be consider recommendation options for the city council of the city of Rathdrum. We'll go through the city planner report and commission reports and adjournment. Questions?
Can we get a motion on the September meeting minutes, please?
Move to pass?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion pass?
Oh, you got the pen.
So we'll move on to public comment on non-agenda items. List limited to 4 minutes per speaker. Please don't go over time. This is green grass, Meyer
Market.
Market. So we'll start off with the green grass. Mr. Joseph Hassel.
If I may, prior to taking the public comment for that, can we proceed through the agenda items and call the public hearing to order?
Sure.
And then we'll jump into testimony for the
Okay.
specific application. So if there is no public comment on any items outside the agenda items, then we can move to 6A.
Okay.
Public comment?
Public comments? Move the meeting to order
To 6A.
to 6A
Yep.
regarding the Ingolstadt annexation. Actions either consider recommendations or options for city council over City of Rathdrum.
So, disconnect myself really quick.
So we'll read the hearing procedures and you call it.
The hearing procedures.
Hand up right
Oh. So the mayor, chair explains procedures, open public hearing, staff present brief description of proposal. Are we ready for that?
Yes, and for the record, we're starting the public hearing at 6:05 p.m.
So we can start?
Yes. Yes, so,
You have to read this, yeah.
Oh. Oh boy.
In legalese.
Call to order, open the hearing. My name is Larry Vandenberg. Hearing body and staff. We have
Lacey Schwab.
Nick Burns.
Nina Beasley.
the purpose of this hearing include the purpose of this hearing including brief description of the application and action of the hearing body may legally take on application. Address appearance and fairness issues, ask members hearing body if they have any interest in the property.
No.
No.
No. Stand or gain to lose any financial benefit as a result of the outcome of the hearing.
No.
No.
Can you hear or consider the application fair and objective manner?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Are you engaged in any ex parte communications with either proponents or opponents of the application, and if so, then place on the record the substance of any such communication so that interested parties have opportunity at the hearing to rebut the communications?
None.
No.
Of the audience, if they wish to ask members of the audience if they wish to challenge on appearance or fairness grounds participation if the matter by any member of the hearing body, including the reasons for the request. Any member challenged should be given an opportunity to either disqualify or refuse of disqualify him or himself. Any member disqualified based on appearance of fairness grounds must leave the hearing room and must not participate further concerning the applications. No? Okay. The ground rules for the hearing and the manner in which it will proceed. Ask for staff to give a report on the application, ensure that all documents, charts, maps are introduced, exhibits with a number assigned to each exhibit.
So would you like me to give my report?
Please.
Is this on?
You're doing great.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, for the record, my name is Megan Hayes. I'm the city planner with the City of Rathdrum. I am discussing at this point the Ingolstadt annexation. This will be a brief staff presentation, and then we will allow the project proponent to offer additional insight if desired. The application before you was received on August 30th here at the planning department. Generally, the request received requests annexation of unincorporated properties into the city limits of approximately 1.194 acres. The property as currently, it is surrounded on all sides by properties within the city limits, so it does create an island of unincorporated ground. I will take you here to the staff report. This is just for those observing from the public or online. This is just a view of the staff report that was published last week on the 13th. As you can see here, the city limits completely surrounds the property, creating this island of unincorporated ground. The future land use map designates this property as general commercial with an implementing zone of C2. The applicant has requested that upon annexation, the property be zoned as C1. That would be consistent with the surrounding properties as demonstrated in one of these maps. I think it was on the first page, apologies. Here, you can see that the existing zoning is C1, and then we have the industrial on the other side of the highway. For reference, this is along Highway 41, and this is Nagel, thank you. This is Nagel right on the south side of the property. Staff has reviewed this application and finds it to be in compliance with the Rathdrum Municipal Code. The comprehensive plan does offer some options for consideration if this annexation were to be accepted. As I stated, the applicant has requested zoning of C1 upon annexation. The future land use map, which was recently amended, would designate this as C2. Again, the comprehensive plan is a planning tool. It is not, right, there's some flexibility there. I did speak with the attorney about that, and he said that either route, if you were to go C1 or C2, there's case law that supports that decision if there is concern. Options for recommendation could include recommending approval as presented, zoning, annexing and zoning as C1, recommending acceptance and incorporation into the city limits but zoning it as C2. Again, that would create that spot zone, but previous case law does support that as implementing the comprehensive plan. Option would be to deny the application. I will add for the record, I found no grounds to recommend that based on my review. There may be additional review to be completed. Additionally, there are a variety. You can see on the front page of my staff report, I have recommended 2 alternatives to recommend approval and annex as C1. Or if we wanted to move ahead with recommend approval as C2, we could follow up then with a city-initiated rezone to the vicinity to follow this rezone and rezone additional properties in the area to bring that consistency. I will add for the public and for the commission, here is a use matrix demonstrating the uses within the C1 district and the C2 district. They are all the same, except when you get into the C2, you have a lot more options. So if anything, it could increase that buildability and potential for those property owners if there was interest in pursuing that route. For the record, I will add my staff report and included exhibits for this public hearing. If there are any questions, I am happy to address them. I will leave it at that on the staff report.
So now we'll bring the applicant up and comment on the application, followed by the testimony of any technical experts in support of the application.
She chooses not to. She's here for questions, but we're
Okay.
going with the staff.
Any public testimony on the application? First by proponents and then opponents, and state any rules regarding public testimony, such as all comments should be addressed to the hearing body, should be irrelevant to the application, and should not be of personal nature. Everybody understand? Any closing or rebuttal comments from the applicant if desired from public? That's for additional staff comments.
Can we ask a question to the applicant
Sure.
in this section?
But
C2 would give you more. Is there any particular reason you want it to be C1 or?
Probably my lack of knowledge of the process and my options. So whatever's best for the city is fine with me.
Okay, thank you. I'm done.
any questions?
May I ask a question of the applicant? So you also own the properties surrounding this island. If we were to consider moving ahead with a city-initiated rezone, would you be supportive of rezoning that larger property to C2 as well?
Sure.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
What is that currently, the surrounding property?
All is C1.
All C1.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I have. So it's right here. You're looking at the map.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's the farm on the corner of Nagel and
It
been there
is.
forever.
Mhm.
So we can move to public comment and in the order that I believe it's opposition, neutral, and support.
I actually have read that.
You have to take the public comment though.
Okay.
So you have to call for any public comment and then continue through.
Any questions from members of the hearing body? These questions, blah, blah, blah. Any comments from the public?
Were any of those for this one?
No.
Oh.
These are for green grass and minor market. Just listed as minor market.
So just for clarity, we're requesting any comments of opposition to the Engelstad annexation application. Any neutral public comments? Comments of support? Hearing none.
So the hearing on, close the hearing and state what steps are occurred next regarding the application.
For the record, the public hearing is closing at 6:15 p.m., moving to Planning Commission deliberations.
C1 have to make it C1.
I like it, see, but let's just have to resolve this.
Okay, we need to make sure that everybody can hear you.
We had
Please.
some audio issues on the stream last meeting, so project or directly into the mic, please.
I like C1.
Thank you.
Can you bring up the differences?
In the uses?
Yes.
Yes.
Then it can't be storage unit.
Yes.
Further down. I apologize. I'm a little lost in the staff report. Here you go. Minimize. I think that captures it all.
So
So C2,
myself, I would actually like to see it go to C2 because of the shopping center slash hotels, because we have one in town with 6 rooms.
Certainly gives more land use
There's,
options.
I mean, there's, the only options is like extra. I'm sure we're not gonna see any more storage units because we have plenty in town.
Hey, the market solves. Oh, yeah.
So I recommend that we have it moved to C2 zoning.
Can we make a motion now?
Can we make a motion to,
So is everybody's done? Is everybody done?
as soon as deliberations are completed, then the chair can ask
I'm
for a
gonna stay
motion.
with C1.
C1?
Yeah. I think the city did their due diligence, and if they thought it should've went to C2, they would've recommended it, and as they didn't, I see no reason to go further.
I feel that, you stated that you didn't know fully what your options were, that you could do more, and when you were asked if you knew more, if you were more informed about it, would you have wanted to change it? And so that's what I'm thinking is, do you think that you would, as she said, the surrounding areas, would you want to rezone those in the future? Because if you do, you might as well just take care of business now with the part we're dealing with, and then you can apply to rezone the rest of those. But if you think you're only gonna keep it C1, you applied for C1, and so I look at it, I might as well give you C1, and then if you wanna change it in the future, you could change it. But if you already think you're gonna change it in the future, all it means is that you get more options of what you can do with it. So I feel like if you think you're going to want to change it to C2 in the future, you might as well do it now so that you don't have to come back and do this all over again.
That's a really good question. I'm glad you asked it. You know, we bought that property a long time ago, and the staff report I thought was really good. I didn't plan on talking tonight at all, but the only thing the staff report didn't include there was the personal reasons for getting this done now, because we thought we'd do it a while ago. My husband just passed away, and that's why I wanted to do this, because we've got 5 adult kids, and I don't wanna leave them with a mess, cause experiencing what happens with him, he just passed away June 29th. And so I have my to-do list, and this was one of them. So I won't be the owner when it comes to C2. I need to get this off my plate and sold and combined, and it's just life.
So would you say you prefer C1 or C2?
I would say I honestly don't have a preference. What I do know is that in the past, when when my husband got sick and people started calling to purchase the two properties, the annexation, people just don't want to go through the annexation. That just sounds impossible to so many people, and that was a barrier, or I would have sold it, probably 2 years ago. And so I just want to get the annexation done, and I don't have a preference for one or two.
Keeping in mind too, that this is less than a 2-acre parcel of property. So C2 for all of the additional things is not going to be big enough for the shopping centers and things like that. So it might as well be a C1, and then they can rezone all of it as a big chunk later.
Yeah, otherwise you absolutely, if you zone it as C2, the rest will have to be zoned later. And you're gonna come all the way back through this whole process. You do it all now.
I
And
like
it's all
that
the
for
same.
uniformity,
Mhm.
because you are severely
Yeah.
limited on what you can do in 2 acres with C2 for the additional things that aren't already in C1.
And just to clarify, to any potential buyer, I'm gonna sell both together or not, just because I don't wanna create a problem by selling one part and then the other. So if someone wants it, they need to buy both parcels.
That might be easier for her to sell too, so not zoned.
So make a motion to pass for C1.
Yeah, I make a motion to recommend to city council to pass this application as C1.
I second it.
Motion passed.
Roll call
Roll
vote.
call.
Roll call.
Yes.
Nina,
Yay.
Nick,
Yes.
Lacey,
Yes.
Larry.
Yes.
Thank you.
So moving on to the next action item, correct?
Yes, to the next public hearing. So you do not have to go through and read the entirety of the procedures again, but you may want to, after formally opening the hearing, you may want to brief the procedures, and then I'll jump into staff report.
Okay, so open the public hearing for it's not the Ingolstadt, the green grass rezone at 622.
And he has to ask us about conflicts again.
Correct.
So, the action item is consider recommendation for options of the city council of Rathdrum. Purpose of the hearing is to consider recommendations for options of the city council, city of Rathdrum regarding the green grass rezone. Appearance fairness issues, ask members, hearing body, if they have any interest in the property of the application or if they own property within a certain distance. AJ, an example, 300 feet or of the property subject to the application.
No.
No.
No. Stand to gain or lose any financial benefit as a result of the outcome of the hearing.
No.
No.
No. Whether they can hear and consider the application in fair, objective manner.
Yes.
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 Yes. Have you engaged in any ex parte communication with other proponents or opponents of the application, and if so, ask them to place a record of substance of any such communication so that interested parties have the opportunity at the hearing to rebut the communication?
None.
No.
No. Members of the audience, if they wish to challenge on appearance of fairness, grounds, participation in the matter of by any member of hearing body, including reasons for request, any member challenged should be given the opportunity to either disqualify or refuse to disqualify him or himself. Any member disqualified based on appearance of fairness grounds must leave hearing room and must not participate in further concerning application. And state ground rules for hearing and the manner in which to proceed. Again, staff report.
Sure. So again, and for the record, Megan Hayes, City Planner for the City of Rathdrum. I present tonight an application, namely the green grass rezone, as we are calling it for the project file. The application received request rezone of approximately 42 acres of industrial property. The request is submitted to rezone to a residential district zoned R2S, that is a medium density residential zoning district. Approximately 5.808 dwelling units can fit on an acre. So you're looking at, again, these are approximate, we have no plans verifying this, but we're assuming no more than 243 lots. Not including designation of right-of-way. So this is not a large, the city has seen larger subdivisions, I would say. The request is to accommodate what they just described in their application as a new housing unit development to offer affordable housing units for the city. Not to say that this impedes is not the correct word, implies any participation with Section 8 housing. I did have that question so far. I did not see anything in the application. I will add the city does not disapprove based off of if that were applicable in this case. Generally, reviewing population forecast from the comprehensive plan, I will scroll quickly so you can see it on your screen. The comprehensive plan does support this based off of a population projection. Again, these numbers are from the recently adopted comprehensive plan, and they are established based off of historic trends in growth. So the prediction is that the city will continue to grow. The future land use map, again, recently amended and is adopted in the comprehensive plan, does redesignate this as a medium density residential land use area. So the rezone would actually bring closer compliance to the comprehensive plan than as it currently exists. I will enter that, and I don't like to go into full detail or read the staff report. I assume the commission members and the public have read this. I will enter the staff report and its attached exhibits into the record for consideration, but I will leave my staff report at that unless there are further questions or clarity.
Applicant comment on the application followed by testimony of any technical experts in its support of the application.
Yeah. So my name is Brody Cohn. I'm with Tate Engineering. We're at 417 East Indiana.
Closer.
Brody
There
Cohn,
you go.
Tate Engineering, 417 East Indiana, Coeur d'Alene. Just wanted to reiterate that the zone change does correlate with the future land use map, and it will aid the city in developing the area into the intended use. And it's going to comply with the surrounding areas. It's all, the industrial areas are primarily undeveloped, and near the southern border will be up against R2S zoned residential as well. Preliminary plans show that we're fitting approximately 150 lots, which is quite a bit less than the 243.
Not including public right-of-way dedication or other
Yeah.
utilities. That's a high number,
So,
yeah.
in case anyone was worried about the
Yeah.
density, it's not actually going to be that high. But the client would like to reiterate that we're trying to create affordable housing in the current market.
Can we ask questions now? So it's significantly less than was kind of initially guessed at. Would there be any consideration of doing it on one?
So the R2 allows for smaller lots, the 7,500 square feet. That creates a more affordable lot for future residents, just based on amount of land you're buying. So the R1 holds you to, I believe, 10,000 square feet, so it forces you into a larger lot.
So does that mean no?
I mean, we could consider it, it's just,
It would make sense, not for what it's intended for.
What would be considered affordable? Just a rough guess, is it 300, is it 400, or is it 500?
you're out for other areas.
Mine's Alan Becker. That's kind of like it's a loose question, right? Because it depends on like parts and labor and all of the things. I would say that the one thing that I know of lately that lumber is down 51% of what it was at its high point, making it a little bit more affordable. So that, labor in general hasn't gone down. I think on the subdivisions around it have come in during the high points of everything, it seemed like, so all the prices were at a high end, and it seems like that's kind of leveled off now, and I think that's leveled off due to the fact that the commodities end of it has gone down, but the rest of everything remains the same. So it's a little bit more chance to raise it to a 10,000 square foot lot. Would definitely not make it affordable housing for the working class people in the area.
And
That would be my
I will just add for the record, again, the future land use designation of this is medium density residential. Your limiting districts for implementation are R2, R2S, and R2D, which has not yet been developed. So we are limited in our zones.
So R1 isn't even an option?
Correct, not in this designation. I will pull up we are right here. R1 would be implemented here in these light or low density residential areas, but we are right here, generally.
I'm looking at the future land use.
Correct. Yeah, and the zoning map for reference is right here, and we are at this intersection.
Which is currently zoned industrial.
It is all currently zoned industrial, and I believe the previous future land use map also had it designated as industrial. Of recent trends pushed a redesignation in this area to accommodate more residential development and general and light industrial out here on the outside of city limits versus creating that pocket of industrial surrounded by residential.
Where are the zones of commercial?
Pardon?
Where are the zones of commercial?
So zones or land use designations? Both?
Either.
Okay. Well, so zoning first. Before we continue with, I guess, deliberations, we're almost veering into that. Do we want to complete the applicant presentation and then public hearing, and then we'll...
Okay.
Sorry, before we get too out of order.
That's all right, I was just standing up here.
That's okay.
You're good.
done.
Here you go. Any public comment, testimony on application?
There were a couple
Any
completed
questions?
forms for you.
Which are Joseph Hassel.
Good evening. First thing, I want to thank you for your time. I know it's a thankless job. You get up there and do what you guys do, month after month. Although I don't live in Rathdrum anymore, my wife and I do own property in this area in very close proximity to the subject property. And our property is
Don't cut you off. Can you state your name and address for the notes?
It's Joe Hassel, 16546 Hollister Hills Drive in Hauser.
Thank you.
Our property is designated to be changed from industrial to medium density residential, and we're very much in favor of that. Just briefly, that large gray area that was owned by the late George Thayer was nothing but grass fields in 1990. He made a deal for the well, which is there on Meyer Street, to be given to the city in exchange for being annexed into the city, and it was zoned industrial. In 1990, he entertained Boeing relocating their air tunnel to this particular piece of property because of its high power capability. They decided to reconstruct the tower, the wind tunnel in Seattle. Micron considered this site for their location for their campus that has been since built in Boise. Again, this is an ideal spot because we have the high-pressure gas and the power. As we know, we have the one power plant owned by Washington Water Power, now Avista, which is a single-stage plant, and the other one is Cogentrix, which was changed to Rathdrum Power, each of them being right on the gas and right on the grid. So thank God for the comprehensive plan process where we can recognize that this industrial property should not be located in the middle of what we our downtown. Heavy truck traffic coming in and out of the property can be averted by changing this to residential of whatever type and maintaining continuity of trails and sidewalks and so forth. So I'm very much in favor of this rezone. Do you have any questions? Thank you for your time.
Our next person is Alicia Ray.
So I'm not in favor, though.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
okay.
fine.
Okay.
Public comment.
Against, okay.
Alicia Ray, 15013 Pristine Circle, Rathdrum. So I took a look at this, and so one of the things is I'm looking through the narrative. There's a lot of discussion about there's not immediate proximity to rail. There is no rail stops within Rathdrum, so why would that be included in here to change that to residential as a reasoning? I didn't find that as appropriate. Highway 41 is probably about half a mile from that place from there. Also, it talks about, also within it, it talks about this would also route more bikers and walkers away from Highway 95 through residential areas. I think that was probably a mistake because Highway 95 is not over here. And then the other thing is affordable housing. So, right, because I brought that up because when I look at it, so like Thayer was listed as R2 as well. And so those houses are now at 493, 575. However, when you look at the comprehensive plan, it looks like the median is 53,000, which is about just over 200,000 for a home. So my concern is by doing that again, we're just, again, getting houses in here that are not affordable to our residents. And so one of the things I was looking at, because again, I live very close, right down the road, is when I was looking at it, they're talked about these commercial nodes and things like that, where you're bringing in the so the variety of retails or office space, things like that, or the commercial nodes, I believe commercial or neighborhood. So there are a couple different things that were in the comprehensive plan. So why are we not looking at that? And also park space, right? In the comprehensive plan, it says that you need to have it within half a mile. So where is that going to be? Right? Radiant Lake is a private development that is not open to all residents. So again, but unfortunately, a lot of people do go there. So something to consider. So that is why I'm against it.
Thank you. We don't have anybody else that put in a request for comments?
We don't have any additional forms, but I would ask the general public that's here.
Any other questions or comments of the public?
Are you requesting an opposition, support, and neutral comments?
Yes.
Okay, for clarity.
Seeing none? Any closing rebuttal or comments from the applicant? None? Questions from the hearing body?
Well, I do have some concerns, and one of the concerns I have is that, well, first of all, when you buy a property, you bought it with a particular zoning. Kind of like, that's like the contract, that when you bought it, it was this particular zoning. And I do not believe in government encroaching on property rights, because that's one of the beautiful things about living in America is you have rights as property owners, and who wants government encroachment? But also, I feel as residents, we shouldn't be encroaching on other people as well. And one of the problems that we're dealing with right now in Rathdrum, as well as neighboring cities, is an influx of people moving here very fast. And we're popping up housing developments really quickly. And with that, we're just as in that way, it is encroaching on other people, because now it's increasing their rates. Like, I just got a thing today at my front door that fire department, they want to do a levy, increasing your rates by $10 a month. You have schools, they're doing levies all the time, it's increasing rates. You have fire departments aren't able to respond appropriately to emergency calls. You have police departments that are having an influx, especially right now with the time of COVID. You got mental health calls and things that they can't keep up with these things. And so my concern is that if we rezone, again, when a person buys a property, they bought it with a particular zoning, and if you just rezone everything right now, just because the demand is there, it doesn't mean that we're able to support that yet. Not to say it shouldn't ever be rezoned, it's just saying maybe we could slow it down just a little bit, because even how long do you have to wait at intersections? There, like, you go to Hutter, even though it's a little outside of our area, Hutter and Hayden, long lines at those intersections because we don't have a roundabout or we don't have traffic lights yet. And so that's one of my concerns, is that we're moving just a little bit too fast, that maybe we need to just slow down and then revisit them in the future. And again, affordable housing, just like the American dollar, because we have fiat currency, you debase the money, the more money you print, well, guess what? Yeah, it becomes worth less. So I guess if we just built a ton of homes, we do have the demand though. That's the problem, is if you built a ton of homes and you didn't have the demand, the values would go down. But now that we have, if you build a ton of homes, it's actually gonna bring all those people here when maybe we're not ready to support it yet. But if we can put in some more of those traffic lights, and we can put in some more of those roundabouts, and maybe let certain parts of our society catch up a little bit, then maybe we can support those in the future. So those are just some of my concerns.
Yeah, I agree. We are, I don't feel the city's ready for more growth at this time. We have a lot of plans on the table already.
That we haven't even
We
seen
haven't
the
even
effects.
seen the
of it
effects,
yet.
yeah.
Well,
And
we've just passed a whole lot of affordable housing developments.
yeah.
that we haven't
And
even-
how long is the light taking to get installed there? What is that?
I think they're working on the one on 53
Yeah.
and Meyer right now.
Yeah, but how long does that take?
And supporting what Nina said, it's not infringing on anybody's property rights because this has already been zoned industrial. I think we should keep it industrial.
I think we do.
And not to say that it can't be revisited at a future time.
So if I may, the public hearing is still technically open for the record. If you're ready to move into deliberations, could we complete the public hearing process, close the hearing, and then move on to deliberations and discussion?
Okay. I asked for closing and rebuttal comments from applicant. Any additional staff comments?
I would just ensure that we have all read the staff report and considered the legal opportunities we have to consider the application.
Yes.
Any questions from the hearing body? So I move to close the hearing
Second?
and go for a no? or a
No,
vote?
no second or no vote.
Okay,
So we deliberate now?
deliberate.
There you go.
Go ahead, finish.
Sorry, it's just one of those
Sorry,
formalities. Thank you.
First time.
That's okay.
Sorry for folks. My feeling is, if it's not industrial, then we need commercial. Because you look around town, you have Super One area, you have where the IGA is, and then you have the little corridor on 41. And then you have Sam Stop and Zips. That's pretty much all the commercial in town. What we need is more amenities for the people in the area, not more residents to go to Post Falls, Hayden, and anywhere else.
We've been a sleeper city for a long time.
So, that's my feeling.
And what they want to have happen today is to change it from, as an agricultural.
Industrial.
To residential.
Residential.
Yeah.
And has there been any studies, I know in the past, in other areas where the main power lines are running through there? What are the issues for that, so?
I would just remind again that the land use map that the Planning Commission and the City Council just completed designates this as a medium density residential. Commercial is not an implementing zoning, nor is industrial. So moving towards residential does bring us closer to compliance with the comprehensive plan. I absolutely appreciate the narrative of we are a sleeping community. You are absolutely correct, and I think the City Council recognizes that as well, as they have redesignated this entire corridor as that highway commercial mixed use that's intended to drive that commercial development, as well as here, and then this way on 53 as well. So there is a need for that, and that has been identified, but this was not a property, an area where the Planning Commission, previous staff, consultant, or the council identified as appropriate for commercial use.
Is that something that we can, what's the word I'm looking for? Piggyback onto a recommendation to City Council to relook at this section in the future land use map and the comp plan?
I'm sure there are options for that. It was just adopted
Last month?
Yeah, last month. I mean, technically, it's still in the appeals period. If that was the route you wanted to go to appeal the adoption, I wouldn't recommend that. In appealing the decision, I think we could consider just amending the code or the comprehensive plan. We'll have to look into when we can open it again. There are some limitations on how many times you can open a comprehensive plan, so we'll have to revisit that.
Can we look into that, amending that?
Yeah.
What that process would be and what would limit an amendment like that?
Because right now, that traffic plan that is coming in is probably one of the worst I've ever seen, and it will cause problems. And if that's industrial right there, you're gonna have a bottleneck that you've never seen before.
We've already got a bottleneck. We've got 4 lanes that bottleneck
Yeah.
right into Rathdrum.
And I know that one will go right, one will go left, but it's still gonna be a nightmare.
What is the timeline on the Lancaster expansion?
So I am not, I'm sorry, I was just trying to get my bearings where we were. I am not able to answer that question. I can defer that to the engineer for an answer.
Is that something we can get an answer on too when you ask?
Well, they're all in the works. The light at 53 in Meyer, the roundabout at Bocal in Meyer, the roundabout at Meyer and Lancaster. All of them, like he had stated when he was here, it's still whichever one comes first type of thing, but all 4 of those.
That's an important consideration when we think of kind of order of what we're recommending City Council adopt is the 41 is just, man, they're working on that like crazy. So what are we looking at when we look at those diversions of traffic? What does that mean for our business areas?
Because once they get that done, if those 2 side ones aren't ready, then what we have is nothing but a mess.
Sure.
But, I mean, from my point of view, we've passed quite a few things already, and it's like, okay, how far ahead of ourselves are we?
I did review that, and we do, and these are high-level approximate numbers, so please keep that in mind. I wasn't able to jump into very far detail on this review, but just to get an idea of where we were at with our predicted population, we have approximately 1,800 buildable lots, but the comprehensive plan calls for an additional 35,400 based on our population forecast. So there's still a need. We have been approving a lot has been coming through, but that need still is quite present.
Does this number reflect, because I know in our comprehensive plan, it didn't include numbers for what was being built in 2020. Granted, we had all of the workers from Washington coming over in the lockdown,
Sure.
but those represent numbers that are already here.
Yes.
But they weren't reflected in the comprehensive plan, which up until that point kind of went every 10 years.
Mhm.
So does that number reflect accurately the 2020 that wasn't in the comp plan?
So what this is, one of our planners, James, he actually integrated some of the data. He created this data by integrating it into GIS and adding lots, the zoning, a lot of it's way too techy for me, so I won't get into the weeds when I can't get my way back out. But he developed this data for me. And then we included the 134 infill lots that was identified in the comprehensive plan to bring us to that approximate 1880. And this includes existing platted, undeveloped, or just in the works for getting their final plat. So it's pretty comprehensive. It's not exact, if between running this and 50 building permits came through, then that would need to be excluded as well. But it's as close as we could get.
Thank you. I still want to keep it industrial.
So I move for a vote.
To keep it industrial? To recommend to city council to
keep it
deny
in.
the application?
Yes. Or for or against.
I will second that.
Well,
So
hold on.
we need a motion, sorry. You can't vote without a motion, we need a motion.
So are you making the motion? Do you want to restate that, or is that your motion?
Are you
Lacey?
making that
You need to
motion?
make
I
that
will
motion.
make a motion
Okay,
to recommend to city council to deny the application.
thank you. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Can you please provide the grounds that is for the denial? That is supported by the city code in considering the
Does it
application?
have to be her, or can I do it?
Well,
Yes, just
She
we
made
need,
the motion, so she needs to do it.
so if you wanna let that motion die, and then you can make the motion and provide the grounds.
I make a motion to deny the application. And then
Giving-
explain why.
Yeah, it has to be within the city code as to why it could not be allowed.
Can I interject real quick on that? Where we're not a governing body, we're just making a recommendation
Sure.
to city council.
Sure.
That's not really our burden, we just make the recommendation.
So
Well, I can attest that we've received comments from citizens as well as letters from citizens that they're concerned about the growth and that it will be an encroachment on them, on their taxes, that now they're gonna be paying an influx of money. So essentially, I don't wanna encroach on private property, but it's encroaching on other people that already live here because now they're gonna have to pay the burden of the increase of all the people that are moving there. And so because of the comments that we've received, I just feel like it's not to say that the zoning won't ever be changed, but just not right now. We need to slow the growth just a little bit to catch up so that, I talked to a firefighter tonight and he said, we have more accidents that are happening, more traffic, we're gonna have bad weather coming, influx of people that are moving here that have never driven in the snow here, that there's many areas here that we're having accidents and they're not able to keep up with it. So for emergency purposes, and also the burden that it puts on the people that already live here, the tax burden, those are the grounds that I make that motion.
According to Rathdrum City Code 2-1-1, we as planning and zoning have the power and duty to act as an advisory agency and hear, review, and recommend to the council. So based on testimony, we recommend disapproval.
So that's a second.
Second.
Nina, second.
And a vote.
Roll call vote, Nina?
So I would,
Roll call vote,
because,
yes, so I.
Aye.
You agree? Okay. Nick?
Aye.
Lacey?
Yes.
Larry?
Aye.
Thank you.
Hearing's closed.
No, it's not.
right?
It was already
It was already
closed, but
closed.
yeah, it's
Okay.
to move to
There
the
you
next
go.
business
So-
item.
There you go.
So our next order of business would be the Meyer Market Short Plat subdivision. Action item is consider recommendation options for the city council of the city of Rathdrum. Does any member of the council have any interest in the property or the application, or if they own property within 300 feet of the property subject to the application?
So this is not a public hearing. This
Oh.
is just a deliberation based off of what I presented within the application, or in your staff report.
Okay, we have comment?
The applicant, well, the agent is present to answer any questions if necessary. There is not technically a formal comment window for a non-public hearing item.
Okay. So. We don't go through this then?
No, it's not a public hearing.
So we'll basically hear from,
You'll just discuss internally and ask staff for any insights if necessary.
This is just the official of what we've already seen, so I say we pass it.
What?
Except that they redid that section for the roundabout.
The right of way on the
Yeah.
roundabout, or not, yeah, to accommodate the right of way toward the roundabout. Is that the only thing that?
and this is the applicant himself?
No, I'm a representative.
Okay.
Right, yeah. He just had filled that out in case you guys had questions or
In
anything
case
of
there
him.
isn't technically a public comment window though,
Okay.
so I would just encourage staff to. or-
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just changed the right of way, updated that. Is that all you did?
So for the record, my name is Wayne Lockman, Lake City Engineering, 126 East Poplar Avenue. Yeah, we were asked to subdivide it into 2 lots. We added right away for the roundabout, and then access easement in 1 spot for both lots.
We've already seen this.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
I make a motion to recommend to city council to approve.
I second that.
Call for a vote?
Nina, you did second?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Nina,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Lacey,
Yes.
Larry.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm closed. Next thing on the agenda is old business Westwood Pines final plat. Consider recommendation to options for city of Rathdrum.
I didn't see on there whether or not it was a, because I remember in that hearing that there was discussion about a fence, and he said there was gonna be a fence, but I didn't see that in the paperwork. Was that officially included on that back portion? I just don't want any sneaky, like,
Sure, so,
otherwise, because that's what we talked about, was that fence.
well, and I believe that the notice, the fence requirement wasn't required prior to the, let me just double check.
Because in the hearing, he said, yeah, we can consider a fence, but then it was never made official.
It was included in the notice of decision
Sweet.
as a condition of approval. Let me just, do you know off the top of your head?
Well, I do remember, you're right. In the meeting, they said on the west side of it, but I didn't read that.
Yeah, and this was over a year ago, so I just,
Yeah, I wasn't here for this one.
yeah, I wasn't here for this one either.
Yeah, we had a lot of public comment about, not even against it, it was just, hey, we needed you to put up a fence, which seemed very reasonable.
Well, there were a lot of concerns from the neighboring
Yeah.
people that
There it is, right there.
it encroaching on.
Yeah, and they have
Landscaping and
livestock
fencing,
and,
Yeah.
under 11?
Yeah, and 12, yeah. Yeah, and so that would be within the development agreement, not necessarily the final plat. Kevin jumped the engineers, since he was actually here for this project, he's the one who reviewed the final plat and has recommended that we accept it, that the infrastructure is built to code. it is compliant with the requirements. The fence would come in following, once that construction actually starts. The prelim to final is just that phase when you get in your public infrastructure, lights, sidewalks.
But that is documented.
Yes, that's in the
Yeah.
notice of decision,
Yeah.
yeah. No certificate of
Yeah.
occupancy would be issued for any property until that's there.
Yeah, we had a little pushback. Do you remember that? He was like, oh, well, the residents will put in the fence. We're like, that's not gonna work.
Well, because it's not them that is doing a new project or whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah, but
So
they did
they have to
finally,
bear the burden.
they did finally do that.
So, do we move to approve this?
Oh, I'm gonna go 4 for 4. All right. Ready, Mary?
Got it.
I move to recommend to city council to approve the final plat.
I second that.
And actually, all in favor?
Aye.
That's all I
Aye.
need. Thank you. Thank you.
Because we already saw that too.
So the next business would be city planner report.
I do not have a report.
Okay. Commission's report?
Anybody have anything you want to discuss, or this is now the time?
When you brought up the population and it showed that we had what was that number, 134 more lots? Is that what that was?
Along that lines, yeah.
134 more lots to approve to reach density recommendations. Does that number take into consideration the developments that are already being recommended and approved to move forward?
So the 134 lots was actually what was within the comprehensive plan as infill lots. So underdeveloped or undeveloped properties on the existing incorporated limits, it does not. There's approximately 1,600 recently platted lots out there. And adding those two together, that's where you get that 1,800.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That new Berkshire, well, it's not Berkshire, but it's the same developers as Berkshire. That was like 1,000.
700.
Yeah, I mean, that was
lots, I believe,
is
or
that
something in there.
working
Max.
toward
You'll know
meeting
more.
that.
They are submitting for Brookshire Third, and that's the 4th phase of that, and that's going to take them right up to Lancaster. And they have submitted, we have probably 25 permits submitted for Brookshire Third.
That one that was south, that included the gift of land for the
No, that was
firefighters.
Brookshire.
That's that phase of Berkshire. Oh, it is
Yeah.
Berkshire.
Oh, the
Berkshire.
fireplace, or the fire.
That's Berkshire 1
it
or
was
2.
south of the
It was south, it was,
train.
yes.
Railroad.
Yeah, it's not Brookshire, it was the one, Hendrickson
Meadows?
South.
Yeah, because it was the same. It was the same developers, but it was. I thought
Right.
it was different.
Right, it was south of Brookshire now.
And so all those developments are included in those numbers, is what you're selling? Okay. Okay. And that's good to know, because in my mind, all those are sitting out there because they haven't got the permits yet for each one. So I'm thinking, okay, you only have 134, and I know one development has 705, so.
Then that Timberglade where the mansion is,
Yeah.
that final plat has been recorded and they are submitting permits for that too.
So we're still shy the 18 whatever.
Yeah, we're still shy 134, even with everything that's already been approved and to be.
No, we're shy
1,800.
far much more than that. That 134 is
Just
not
unused
including
land.
any of those plats. Just across the street there might be an underdeveloped piece of property. The total. Let me get back to that staff report. Hold on.
So,
I'm too far. Let me go down really quick. Is it this one? No, this is sorry. I need to hyperlink my staff report so I can just click and go. We are still 1,700 shy of buildable lots and housing units to provide for the predicted population.
okay.
Would you mind toggling back to the land use map?
Yes.
You're a whiz, man. Thank you.
Mhm. Is there a certain section?
Nope, that high view is perfect.
Okay. One question I have though is just because that's the predicted amount of population doesn't mean you have to make that population happen. Yeah, they might say, but that's just a prediction.
Sure.
I don't see why we have to be the people that actually make it happen. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy where it's like, well, do we actually, if we're finding that we're suffering some negative effects from growth camp, I kind of just, well, not kind of, I think we need to be wise in our decisions so that, hey, get in some of those roundabouts, get in some of those traffic lights, get in some of that infrastructure so it's squared away so that once you hit that, you're like, okay, you know what? Now we can add some more. But if you just like throw all of that in there and you don't even have that to support it, then you kind of have a mess. And then you're just dealing with problems and accidents. And so that's just a concern that I have. And also from listening to a lot of citizens and what their concerns are because they feel like things are just moving way too fast. And they are like, can it just slow down just a little bit so they could catch up and get plans in place to meet that demand? Because it's just, that's what I hear. I hear it. I go to meeting after meeting and talk to citizens after citizens, and that's their concern. That it's just way too fast. Like they're like, they just need it slowed down just a little bit.
So this past summer, the city council passed resolutions that put in better guidelines, clarification on the apartment complexes, multi-dwellings. Mm-hmm. And I really love that they did that. Can we put on a future agenda to revisit that for new developments that we can then propose and recommend to city council to adopt kind of along those same lines? Like what green spaces, building designs, like can we revisit that and put that on the agenda?
For multifamily or the remainder of title?
No, for just residential. Okay. To do kind of what they did with multifamily, but revisit that with residential.
Okay. Yep.
I don't know if you can answer this or not, but they're planning to zone 41 as commercial in there. What are they gonna do with the 4-lane to access those businesses?
In the past, they have talked about a frontage road.
So they're gonna put a frontage road on either side?
It'd be a frontage or a backage, depending on the specific development. I believe within the comprehensive plan, it describes having a green space buffer between the highway, within a trail, a frontage, the development, or flip that trail development package. I think there's some flexibility there. That's a question and decision by the engineer.
And for ITD to give access off the busy highway.
Yeah.
I'm just curious because that shrinks, as soon as you put the 4 lanes there, that shrinks that corridor that's supposedly all commercial, which doesn't look like there's much there.
They talked about strip malls, apartments, and things like that will be very tall and narrow and long. So it's not going to require a ton of space.
So I'll be honest, I didn't feel like we got a whole lot of say.
Well, in
this.
I think understanding would be a better word. Along with that, I would love to have a meeting where we could, as we were talking about earlier, revisiting or amending that one section, if in that same time that we could look at what we could maybe incorporate more commercial in our future land use map. I think a lot of people think and they hear industrial, but they want commercial. They want maybe another gas station or grocery store or even a shopping center.
Home Depot.
Something
Why would you
along
want that
those
over
lines.
Lowe's?
But as, like I said, our understanding of that and where we're going as a community, I just don't believe we were fully, I wasn't anyways, fully clear on how this was gonna go and how fast it was going to go. So
Yeah, you're not alone in that boat.
it's moving very quick.
Yeah, I saw ducks and geese out in that field that now is all houses, so.
Yep.
But- So, any more comments?
No.
Any comments? Well, good.
I think we're at adjournment.
Well, actually, I do want to say one thing, and, you know, I do feel that the purpose of government is to write laws, approve laws, enforce laws that secure our rights. And I don't believe in government encroachment. And so for me, like even when I see people that, you know, developers or engineers, they have this property, they want to develop, it's like, I want to respect everybody's rights as much as possible, property rights. But at the same time, those things can, it's like you want to respect the individual rights, but also they can't encroach on other people's rights at the same time. And so it's like, it's a fine balance of ensuring that their rights are protected but then the community comes in and says, hey, like, what if somebody builds something and it's leaking toxic chemicals, then it infringes on another person's rights. And so again, I just wanted to just let it be known that I truly do care about that and finding that.
Let the record reflect Nina is not a tyrant.
No, I do not believe in I don't believe in people encroaching on other people's rights as well as government encroaching on their property rights too. But I mean, at the same time, that's what I'm hearing it day after day from citizens because of what I do during the day that they're concerned. And I mean, you have people here that are on fixed incomes and raising $10 here and another $10 here, then they're like, and then their property, they own property and their taxes are going up. And again, you don't want government intruding in things because the free markets will correct themselves, but at the same time, you can say, hey, let's just slow it down just a little bit, catch up, and then we'll revisit it, and then we can start growing some more and producing more. So thanks. I'm done.
Thank you. Yes.
I make a motion to adjourn? Do I get to do that?
I second it.
Okay.
I third.
Vote.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, guys. Good job.
Megan? Yeah. Thank you for these.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry that was off, Mary.
No, you did good. Hey, that was good. Serious. So you want Larry, not,
I might have just broken that. Yeah, and he needs to sign out. Sorry. Everybody's hands. Did you do this? No. Okay. So end stream.
Wow.
Do I get to keep this?
Tim. You have to talk to the mayor on that.
Oh, no.
We'll just cross off.
Yeah. Thanks for coming in. I hope you have a good evening.